Daniel Rahman had never felt as betrayed in his life. It started with a single email, simple, cold, and impersonal, but it carried the weight of years of trust being ripped apart. He had stayed awake that night, working tirelessly, polishing the final details of the company's new product. His hands were stiff, his eyes red, but he had believed in what he was building. For years, Daniel had poured his heart into the company, sacrificing weekends, holidays, even moments with his family, convinced that loyalty and hard work would eventually pay off. He never expected the very person he trusted most to be the one who would take it all away. The email's subject line was short: termination notice. Daniel's fingers trembled as he clicked it open, expecting some administrative error, a simple mistake, something that could be corrected in an instant. But the contents were clear, formal, legal, irrevocable. His position was gone, effective immediately, access revoked. Nothing more, no explanation, no apology. Just a clean cut through everything he had worked for. He looked for a name, a signature, anything that could humanize the act. There was nothing. Only a press release attached beneath, glowing on his laptop screen. His own project, the product he had conceptualized, designed, nurtured, was now being presented as the innovation of someone else. The new CEO, Marcus Hale, his former partner and close friend, had announced it as his own work. Interviews praised Marcus's vision, his brilliance, his leadership. Daniel's name was absent, erased, obliterated at first. Daniel could not process it. His mind refused to accept reality. He stared at the screen for hours, the same words repeating. In his mind, termination effective immediately. Marcus Hale's innovation. The betrayal was not only professional, it was personal. Marcus was supposed to be his partner, the one person who shared the same dreams, the same late nights, the same relentless pursuit of success. They had promised each other equality, loyalty, honesty. They had built the company together from scratch. Marcus had been there when the bank had denied them loans, when investors had laughed at their ideas, when every setback felt like the end. And yet, here he was, presenting Daniel's work as entirely his own. Confident and unapologetic, memories flooded back. The late nights, in small, cramped apartments, laptops open, coffee cups empty, ideas sketched on napkins and whiteboards. The laughter they shared, the debates over strategy, the mutual encouragement when a project failed, the shared excitement when a breakthrough happened. Every handshake, every promise, every plan, it felt like a lie now. Daniel had trusted Marcus completely. He had believed that friendship and ambition could coexist, that loyalty would be enough to prevent someone from turning on him. He had been wrong. Daniel tried to call Marcus. Nothing blocked. Every colleague who had once been friendly now avoided his gaze. Rumors began to swirl that Daniel had been ineffective, that he had left voluntarily, that his role in the project was minimal. The truth no longer mattered. Reality had been rewritten. His reputation, painstakingly built over years of hard work, began to crumble silently, invisibly. Every mention of the project in the media, every headline praising Marcus, felt like another blow, another erasure of his identity. Days passed and Daniel sank into a quiet fury. Not the kind that shouts or throws objects, but the kind that simmers in the mind, cold and calculating. Sleep eluded him. Meals became distractions. Work became impossible. Every waking moment was consumed by the question, why? Why would someone he trusted so completely betray him? And then, beneath the shock and hurt, a different feeling began to grow. Something sharp, focused, almost purposeful. It wasn't simple anger. It wasn't sorrow, exactly. It was a hunger for justice, for recognition, for balance. He didn't want Marcus to apologize. He wanted the truth to be acknowledged. He wanted the world to see what had been taken from him the first night. He went over every detail of the betrayal in his mind. He remembered the early days when they had both been idealistic students, with nothing but ideas and ambition. Marcus had been charming, persuasive, always ready with a plan, a joke, or a reassurance when Daniel doubted himself. They had become inseparable, partners in work and in dreams. Daniel had confided in him more than anyone else. Family, friends, mentors all came second to the trust he placed in Marcus. And now that trust was shattered. In the following days, Daniel began to quietly gather evidence. Old emails, drafts of proposals, notes from meetings, anything that could prove the truth. It was meticulous work, methodical and slow, but it gave him a strange sense of control. For the first time since the betrayal, he felt a glimmer of purpose. He wasn't powerless. He could build a case. He could document the injustice. Kay could prepare for a reckoning. Yet even as he worked, doubt crept in. Was this desire for revenge healthy? Could exposing Marcus actually heal him? Or would it simply drag him deeper into bitterness? Every scenario played out in his mind, the headlines screaming his vindication. Marcus humiliated in front of colleagues, investors, and the press. Recognition finally coming to Daniel. It was tempting. The idea of justice, of setting things right, ignited a fire in him. But Daniel also remembered Marcus's smile. The way he once encouraged Daniel when he felt like quitting, the times he had gone out of his way to protect the company's vision. The line between villain and friend blurred. Was Marcus purely selfish? Or had fear and ambition clouded his judgment? Could he have been justified in his own mind? Daniel realized that understanding Marcus's motives did not excuse the betrayal. It did not erase the hurt. But it complicated the desire for revenge. As he dove deeper into the evidence, he noticed patterns. Marcus had not just taken credit, it altered timelines, made strategic decisions that Daniel had disagreed with, and cut corners that Daniel had always insisted on keeping. Marcus had been reckless in his ambition, prioritizing speed over caution, recognition over integrity. That reckless ambition had placed the company at risk, and Daniel now held proof. The temptation to use this evidence to dismantle Marcus's success became stronger with every discovery. The nights became long and restless. Daniel would lie awake, imagining scenarios. Each plan more elaborate than the last. Each imagined confrontation more satisfying. And yet, the more he imagined it, the heavier it felt. He realized that revenge was not simply about winning. It was about reclaiming a part of himself that had been stolen. It was about proving, first to himself and then to the world, that his contributions were real, meaningful, and undeniable. His personal life began to unravel in small ways. Friends who tried to reach out found him distant. Family saw him growing quieter, more withdrawn, absorbed in the invisible battle waging in his mind. Sleep was punctuated by dreams of Marcus's smug face, headlines praising his betrayal, and the humiliation of being erased from his own story. Daniel's body grew tense, his mind restless, but his focus sharpened. He could not undo the past. He could not erase the betrayal. But he could prepare for what came next. Then came the day he saw Marcus in public for the first time since the email. It was at a launch event, glittering and bustling, a celebration of success. Marcus spoke confidently to investors, the media, colleagues, a picture of control and triumph. Daniel, standing unnoticed at the edge of the room, watched every gesture, every smile, every word. The anger surged anew. He wanted to confront him, to expose him then and there, to reclaim the credit and shatter the illusion Marcus had built. But he did not act. Instead, he observed. Every movement, every expression, every nuance told him something new. Marcus's confidence was real, but so was the tension beneath it. There was a flicker of doubt in his eyes, a strain behind the smile. Daniel realized that Marcus carried the weight of the choices he had made. Success, stolen or not, was a burden. Daniel's anger mingled with a strange sense of pity. Though it did not lessen the betrayal, Returning home that night, Daniel felt a mix of emotions he could not fully untangle. Hurt, anger, betrayal, determination, even a flicker of understanding. Revenge had become more than a desire for justice. It was a complicated dance with morality, with self, and with the past. Daniel knew that every decision moving forward would carry consequences. Every action would define not only what Marcus deserved, but who Daniel himself would become. In the following weeks, Daniel organized the evidence with precision. Every email, every draft, every internal note, every timestamp file was cataloged. He built a narrative that told the truth clearly and indisputably. He imagined the impact. Journalists reading the evidence, colleagues seeing the proof, the public learning the reality. The plan was meticulous, calculated. He was no longer reacting. He was preparing. Even as he prepared, Daniel wrestled with his conscience. Could he find a way to hold Marcus accountable without letting himself become consumed by bitterness? Could he reclaim his name, restore his work, and still preserve some part of his own humanity? He did not yet know. For now the plan existed, only in the shadows, a quiet pulse in the back of his mind. But the fire had been lit, the betrayal had been done, and Daniel Rahman would not forget. Daniel spent the following days in quiet obsession. Every moment away from work, away from the world, was consumed by the betrayal. He replayed Marcus's betrayal in his mind over and over, dissecting every conversation, every decision, every small sign he had ignored. Each memory fueled a fire inside him. The world had been taken from him, his work erased, his trust shattered. And yet, anger alone was not enough. He needed a plan, one that would expose the truth without leaving room for doubt. He began by collecting evidence. Every email, every draft, every design note, every timestamped document was cataloged meticulously. He dug through archives, old messages, and backup files. It was painstaking work, but it gave him a sense of control he hadn't felt since the termination. Each file, each proof of his contribution became a small victory. He could feel that plan forming piece by piece, like building a quiet storm. Even as he organized his strategy, doubt crept in. Marcus had been more than a partner. He had once been a friend. Could he really destroy the man who had encouraged him through failures? Who had shared dreams, hopes, and late-night laughter? The anger remained, but Daniel realized that revenge was more complicated than he imagined. It wasn't just about exposing Marcus. It was about reclaiming himself, his dignity, and the recognition he deserved. Daniel decided to observe Marcus. From afar, he attended industry events anonymously, watching him speak confidently to investors, journalists, and colleagues. Marcus's words were sharp, his confidence polished, but Daniel noticed subtle cracks. A tension behind his smile, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Marcus was thriving on the surface, but the weight of success pressed on him. The realization made Daniel pause. The man he hated was not invincible. He was human, flawed, and vulnerable. Still, the temptation to strike was irresistible. Daniel imagined sending the collected evidence to journalists, broadcasting Marcus's betrayal to the world. He pictured headlines revealing the truth, colleagues and investors seeing who had truly created the project, Marcus humiliated publicly. Every imagined scenario made his pulse race. The satisfaction felt almost tangible, but along with it came fear. Fear of losing himself in vengeance, of becoming the very person he despised. Every night, Daniel played the scenarios over in his mind. Each plan had consequences. A direct confrontation could destroy Marcus, but it could also destroy Daniel's own peace. Public exposure could bring vindication, but at the cost of dragging the past into the present, forcing him to relive betrayal endlessly. The more he planned, the heavier the weight became. He realized that revenge was not simple. It demanded a price, and he had to decide whether he was willing to pay it. Despite the doubt, Daniel continued preparing. He refined his evidence, ensured it was airtight, impossible to dispute. He anticipated counterarguments, imagined Marcus's defense, and calculated the perfect timing for revelation. Each step was precise, deliberate. The process became a test of patience and intelligence. Daniel felt a quiet satisfaction in his strategy, a sense of purpose that helped him endure the emotional turmoil. He was no longer helpless. He had control. One evening, while reviewing the evidence, Daniel noticed something unexpected. Marcus had not just stolen credit, he had made decisions that risked the project itself. He had cut ethical corners, rushed development, and ignored safety checks Daniel had insisted upon. The realization intensified Daniel's resolve. Marcus's ambition had not only betrayed friendship, it had jeopardized everything Daniel had built. The desire for justice surged, sharper and clearer than before. Yet, as he imagined confronting Marcus, Daniel's thoughts became more complicated. He recalled the moments when Marcus had shown kindness, when he had supported Daniel during setbacks. Was revenge truly justice? Or was it simply a way to hurt someone who had hurt him? Could he achieve satisfaction without losing himself in the process? These questions haunted him, keeping him awake through long nights. He realized that the real challenge was not gathering evidence, but deciding what kind of person he wanted to be. Daniel's obsession grew, but so did his understanding. Revenge was tempting, intoxicating even, but it came with chains. It could satisfy anger, but it could not heal betrayal. Each step toward exposure forced him to weigh personal satisfaction against moral consequence. He realized that Marcus had acted out of fear and ambition, human flaws that did not excuse betrayal, but offered context. Understanding this complicated the desire for payback despite these reflections. Daniel could not let go of the plan entirely. He honed it, sharpened it, and rehearsed the confrontation in his mind. He imagined meeting Marcus privately, confronting him with the truth, demanding acknowledgement. He imagined sending the evidence to the press if Marcus refused. Every scenario played out like a chess game, each move calculated, each outcome weighed. Daniel's mind became a battlefield, the conflict between anger and morality consuming him entirely. Then came the moment that changed everything. Marcus requested a private meeting. Daniel hesitated. Could he face the man who betrayed him without letting his fury take over? Could he control the temptation to strike? The decision made his pulse quicken. This meeting could be the turning point, a chance to reclaim truth without succumbing to vengeance, or a trap that would allow rage to consume him completely. As the day approached, Daniel felt every emotion sharpened. Anxiety, anticipation, anger, curiosity, each collided inside him, creating a storm of tension. He reviewed his evidence one last time, rehearsed questions, and prepared for confrontation. The weight of what he carried was enormous, but Daniel felt ready. He was no longer just a victim. He had a plan, a purpose, and the power to decide how this story would end. And yet, underneath all preparation, a quiet question remained. Could he achieve justice without surrendering to bitterness? Could he reclaim his name and his dignity without destroying the man who had once been his friend? The answer was uncertain, but the choice was now in his hands. The meeting with Marcus would decide everything. The night before, Daniel could barely sleep. His mind raced with possibilities, each more intense than the last. He imagined anger exploding, words spoken he could never take back. He imagined calm reasoning, truth acknowledged without chaos. He imagined failure, humiliation, even defeat. But beneath every scenario, a single resolve remained. He would not be powerless again. He would confront the betrayal on his terms, and he would not allow the desire for revenge to consume him entirely. By morning, Daniel had reached a quiet understanding. The plan existed, ready to act, but the outcome depended not on the evidence alone. It depended on his choices. Revenge could be easy. Forgiveness, honesty, and confrontation without malice were far harder. He realized that the true conflict was not Marcus, but himself. How far would he let anger go? How much of his own humanity would he sacrifice for satisfaction? As he walked toward the meeting place, evidence in hand, mind sharp, heart pounding, Daniel felt a strange clarity. Betrayal had marked the beginning of something new. He had lost trust, but he had gained understanding. The storm inside him was ready to break, but the direction it would take depended entirely on the decision he was about to make. Marcus had taken everything, but Daniel would decide what he would take back and what he would refuse to lose. The day of the meeting arrived, and Daniel's heart raced as he approached the quiet cafe where it had been arranged. The same cafe where he and Marcus had spent hours planning their earliest projects, dreaming of success and laughing over coffee. It felt almost ironic. A place of old trust now set for confrontation. Every step Daniel took carried the weight of months of anger, planning, and sleepless nights. He had rehearsed this moment endlessly, imagining countless ways to assert himself, to demand recognition, to finally claim what was his. Marcus was already there, sitting at a small table near the window. He looked older, the effortless confidence of public appearances replaced by something more fragile. Lines had formed around his eyes. His smile, once broad and carefree, seemed measured, tentative. Daniel paused for a moment, noting the subtle tension, the weight of the past months pressed on Marcus's shoulders. For the first time, he saw not a villain, but a human being, flawed, fearful, ambitious, and remorseful. The sight complicated his anger, but it did not diminish it. Betrayal was real, and justice still needed to be served. They greeted each other quietly, the past hovering in the air like an invisible storm. Neither spoke for several seconds, as if both were waiting for the other to break the silence. Finally, Marcus leaned forward and said, "I know why you're here." His voice was calm, but there was an edge of unease. Daniel's fingers tightened around the folder containing his meticulously collected evidence. Every email, draft, and time-stamped file was there, proof of everything Marcus had done. One slip of the hand, one click, and Marcus's world could collapse instantly. Daniel took a deep breath. "Don't deny it," he said quietly. Marcus shook his head. "No, I don't. I made choices I thought I had to make. I convinced myself it was necessary, told myself I'd make it right later. But success made that harder." Marcus's words hung in the air. There were no excuses, only explanation and a rare vulnerability. Daniel's anger surged, but it was tempered by the realization that Marcus had not acted purely out of malice. Fear and ambition had clouded his judgment. Daniel opened the folder slowly, letting the evidence rest between them. Marcus's eyes widened slightly, the recognition of its significance immediate. "You could destroy me, Marcus," said softly, almost a whisper. The power Daniel felt in that moment was intoxicating. He imagined headlines exposing the betrayal, colleagues shocked, investors outraged. He imagined satisfaction, vindication, the taste of revenge finally complete. It was a powerful fantasy, almost overwhelming in its appeal. Yet, as he looked at Marcus, Daniel felt the weight of choice pressing down. Revenge would be easy. Satisfaction would be immediate. But at what cost? Would it heal the months of hurt, or would it chain him to the past forever? Would destroying Marcus restore him, or would it consume him as well? For the first time, Daniel understood that revenge was not just about the other person, it was about himself. He closed the folder quietly. "I won't destroy you," he said, his voice calm but firm. Marcus blinked, stunned. Daniel continued, "But you will fix this. You will publicly acknowledge the truth. You will admit my contribution. You will make it right, not for me, but because it's the right thing to do." There was no malice in Daniel's voice, only authority and clarity. He had taken control without letting anger dictate his actions. Marcus sat back, silence stretching between them. He understood immediately what Daniel demanded. There was no bargaining, no excuses left. Daniel had the power, but he had chosen restraint. The choice was a moral one, and he had taken the higher road. Marcus nodded slowly. I will, I promise. It was not a complete resolution of their fractured relationship, but it was a start. Honesty replaced deception. Accountability replaced manipulation. Daniel felt a strange calm settle over him. In the weeks that followed, Marcus released a public statement acknowledging Daniel's contributions and apologizing for the oversight. Industry colleagues reacted with surprise, then respect. Daniel's reputation, though damaged, was restored. He was invited to speak at events, share his story, and collaborate on new projects. The recognition he had worked so hard to earn finally returned, but it came without the bitterness he had imagined would accompany it. Daniel realized something profound. Revenge might have brought satisfaction, but it would have also chained him to anger, forcing him to relive betrayal endlessly. By choosing honesty and accountability instead, he reclaimed his name without losing his humanity. He understood that the true cost of revenge is not always paid by the person who wronged you. Often, it is paid by yourself. Marcus, for his part, rebuilt the company more carefully, aware now of the consequences of his choices. He carried the weight of the betrayal he had committed, but he was also given the chance to learn and grow. Both men were changed by the experience, not just by the betrayal, but by the choices they made in its aftermath. Daniel did not feel victorious in the traditional sense. There was no gloating, no public triumph over Marcus. Instead, he felt something far rarer: freedom from bitterness, freedom from obsession, and freedom to move forward, standing. Alone one evening, Daniel reflected on the months of turmoil. The anger, the planning, the sleepless nights all had led to this moment. The betrayal had been real, the hurt deep, but the decision to rise above revenge had given him clarity and strength. He understood now that the desire for payback can consume a person, but restraint, integrity, and wisdom can transform even the deepest betrayal into an opportunity for growth. The storm inside him had passed, leaving calm determination in its place. The path of vengeance had been tempting, intoxicating even, but Daniel had chosen the path that preserved his humanity. He realized that the greatest victory is not in defeating those who wronged you, but in refusing to let bitterness define your life. Betrayal could have destroyed him, but instead it taught him a lesson that would last far longer than any moment of revenge could. True power lies not in retaliation, but in control. Control of one's self, of one's choices, and of one's future.